right, welcome. This is Brad Fain with another edition of Living a Good Life. We're here today with Grant and Jesse, the co-owners, founders, entrepreneurs extraordinaire of Founding Fathers in Prescott. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having us, Brad.
Yeah, thanks.
I really appreciate you guys joining us. Before we dive into like how Founding Fathers became a reality and maybe some of that backstory there, maybe just introduce yourself to the folks. Like who are you guys? Everybody knows Jesse and Grant, but who are you? Like, how did you end up here today with your businesses?
Well, it started 2 weeks ago with Rebecca Horniman asking us if we could come on this podcast. She was so polite. We thought, hey, that sounds like a good time. So
strong arm. Good deal.
Yeah.
Beat me in arm wrestling. Well, I'm Grant Quezada. I'm from Prescott. My wife and I met in second grade. I have 3 kids, spent several years in the military, and then moved back to town in 2014 and started John Hancock Barbershop. And after 4 years, partnered with Jesse, and we started Founding Fathers Collective, which is I guess a fifth grader's dream, and throwing darts at a dartboard and coming up with good idea fairies. And now 4 years later, here we are.
Has it been 4 years?
Well, from the genesis to the idea, the concept, yeah. So
Nice.
Purchased the building in 2018 and then took 2 years to renovate and build, and COVID hit, and that was awesome. And
Opened in COVID, another one of those.
right in the middle of COVID, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Jesse, who are you?
Yeah. So Jesse Burke, and I was also born and raised here in Prescott, and my wife as well. So my wife and Grant and Ronnie, his wife, were all in second grade together. So we have that class photo of them way back then. And
Awesome.
my wife's grandpa was actually the very first mayor of Prescott Valley. And so have deep roots in the community. I love this place. But then also growing up here, you hated the small town, and you like, I want to get out and I want to go experience the world. And then you get out and you go experience the world. You're like, dang it, I really like my small town.
Yeah.
And so went and did that. I played military as well and got some education and did work and consulting all around. And then around the same time Grant did, ended back in Prescott with my wife, and kind of just when we started asking that question of, okay, let's grow up a little. Let's maybe have kids and put down our roots. Where do we want to do that? And we'd been all over, and it was just easy that hey, we need to go back to Prescott because that's our hometown. That's where we want to grow old. That's where we want to raise our kids. So ended up back here and got partnered with Grant. Actually hired me as a consultant as he was trying to grow John Hancock, and we started just dreaming and scheming and having fun together. And when my contract came up at the end of it, he was set to renew. He's like, "Hey, do you just want to forget the contract and jump in and do stuff together?" And so that was kind of the genesis of things. And yeah, just been having fun ever since and figuring out how to grow.
Nice. Got him in on that one. Huh? Why don't we just throw this contract away and just come on over here, little sweat equity?
Yeah.
Nice. So what branch of military? Just so our listeners know.
So 8 years on active duty in the Army, and then 8 years in the National Guard. So I'm still serving for Arizona currently. So
Very nice. Thank you
nothing cool anymore. So, but
So Grant, I'll brag on him just because he won't brag on himself, but he was a Ranger, 2nd Ranger Regiment, and then a sniper, deployed a lot of times, one of the top rated snipers in America, and then ran the sniper selection for Arizona for a lot of years. And now he's high enough rank that they put him behind a desk. But
Very nice. Very cool.
Awesome soldier, awesome man, privileged to work with him and know him. And then I'm the opposite. I started behind a desk, so I was an Air Force officer.
Okay.
And so we start behind the desk, and the second they try to get us out from behind the desk is when we leave. So, but I did 5 years in the Air Force Reserve as a chaplain.
All right. Did you ever want to fly? Why the Air Force over the other branches?
It kind of let my wife decide. Had her meet with people from different branches and said, "Hey, you choose which one I go into." And especially on the chaplaincy side, I was being a pastor, and so it's kind of a family affair. And so I said, "Hey, which culture do you like the best?" And she chose the chaplaincy of the Air Force.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And how did you choose Army, or did it choose you?
that was the fastest way into special operations. So the war had kicked off. This was 2006, and out of all the branches of service and special operations units, the Army and Ranger Regiment specifically was the fastest way in, and I was concerned about the war getting over. And so we do our selection process, and then you get into battalion, and you go to all the different schools and trainings that a lot of the other units do within that first 2 years of their qualification courses. So for us, it's more on the tail end. So during that time too, you're operational, so you're going overseas and deploying. So we tend to get a lot more deployments, in our span of service than some of our brother units that are in special operations.
Can I ask where you were deployed to?
Yeah, Iraq twice and Afghanistan 4 times. So yeah, just hunting bad guys, doing cool stuff, jumping out of planes, helicopters.
Saving the SEALs when they got themselves in trouble.
Yeah. Falling asleep on target, cold nights and winters.
And where were you stationed?
So I was stateside. And so I did a lot of backfill. So when chaplains and units would get deployed, I would backfill for them and hold things down on this side of the fort. And then when people came back, helping them transition back into civilian life and just normal life and things on stateside. So that was kind of all my stuff was here, just at different places. And so backfilled it and then probably about 20 different places in those 5 years. So it was cool.
So you've seen a lot of the United States.
Yeah, I got to see a lot of what was going on. And
what was your favorite community place and why?
One of the coolest ones on the fun side was the Air Force Academy. And so I got to go there with the students that were training and then I got to participate in something that's called SEER, but it's kind of like geared. And so it's survival, escape, resistance, and evasion, where they drop you out in the wilderness and teach you to eat bugs and what bugs to eat and what bugs not to eat and how to resist and all that type of stuff. And so hard experience, but it was also really cool because I was kind of there as the chaplain to the kids going through this. And it was a somewhat light version of it because they're putting students through it rather than full-on officers. But that was a really, really cool experience. I mean, yeah, just on the fun side of things.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys. So help me and help everybody listening. And you and I were talking about this the other day, Grant.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, we're going to get a barbershop, we're going to coffee shop, a bar, tap room, speakeasy, throw in a gym, jujitsu. Yeah, it's going to be a perfect business model.
Yeah.
People laugh at if you just throw that out on the table, that no way will that ever happen. So you guys have it today. So how did this idea grow as you two are going back and forth from consulting agreement to sweat equity to what you have today?
Most people nowadays always find popular third places where they spend their free time and money and enjoy camaraderie and friendship. And so for us, that's where a lot of people really where culture takes place. And as a community, in order to invest in a community long term, you need to have a foot at the table when it comes to creating culture within that community. And so for us, we wanted to step into the place where people are spending their free time and enjoying fellowship with each other. And so all those concepts, I guess, met the mark. And then I guess we were silly enough to try to put them all into one building. So.
Yeah, Grant's most definitely the dreamer. But a lot of the genesis was in the barbershop. And so when Grant hired me to come in as a consultant, and he was wanting to grow, and it had grown over the last 2 years. It had doubled, and it had doubled again. Mm-hmm. And he was looking at opening new locations. But he'd been in the military. He's like, I kind of been in the military long enough that I see like certain people get promoted to a level and all of a sudden they're not effective, and I don't want to do that. And so I want like some wisdom in how I grow this thing. Okay. And so we kind of came in, and one of the first questions was just like, okay, well, what has made you successful? Because we want to reproduce that. We want to do more of that thing, and not assume that what you think everybody loves you for is what loves you for, and you reproduce the wrong thing. And so did a lot of interviews with Grant, with his staff, with the customers, and our whole company is based around these 3 C's, but that's when we landed on them. It was community, connection, and care. And that's like really ultimately what people, like those 3 ideas, those concepts are what people loved about John Hancock Barbershop. People would show up for their appointments 2 hours early, and they would hang out for hours afterwards. And it wasn't necessarily that it was the best haircut in the world. And he was given the best haircuts in town, but that wasn't what everybody was saying. It was like, oh, I go there for the haircuts. It was like, no, I go there for the community that's there. And so we just started asking that question of like, okay, well, what are those things that are bringing community? And And so as we started just dreaming about that, a lot of it was stuff that Grant was already doing. He had a fridge of beer, and in Arizona at the time, barbershop could give out a free beer with a haircut, and the coffee, and just things that brought people together. And they just had this sense of, hey, I'm connecting with people here and I feel cared for. And it was building a community. And so as we started talking about growing the barbershop, it was like, okay, this is what we need to reproduce. And when we looked at how do we do that in more barbershops, it was like, that's pretty hard to do, especially without Grant's presence there. We're like, well, let's maybe not grow the barbershop. Let's just grow the thing that people really love and what people are connecting to, which is that community connection care. And so we just started throwing all the good idea fairies on the wall of, okay, hey, we're serving beer. What would it look like if we did that? And if you walk into our building, we tried to keep that sense of things of the barbershop of just like, we do have the self-serve beer and it's a cool technology, but it was more for us. It's just like, hey, this lends itself to that. You're just hanging out at the barbershop type feel. And we tried to keep that alive with everything we have, where it's not you're coming to be served, but it's hopefully kind of your living room, your backyard, and keeping those things what people really connected with on the brand in the first place, and to just say like, hey, that's working, that's what people are connecting with, so let's just do more of that. And I would say it kind of grew and blossomed from there.
Very nice. I imagine with people that feel like it's their second home, their extension of their living room, they stick around longer. Is that kind of the concept of, if I'm pouring my own beer and I just feel comfortable here running into a friend, then I'm going to stay around longer and just engage with that community?
Yeah, we have a buddy, Ty Friedman, who just, I don't think he's been home in 2 years. So now he's got 7 kids. He might have 8, but yeah, he pretty much is there daily, conducting business or shenanigans.
Yeah.
So,
very nice.
Yeah.
And I would say it is, most definitely there's a business side to everything that we do, but it also is pretty much a passion project. The more we've pressed into it over the years, the more we've found that that's what John Hancock is, because that's what Grant believes people need in life. And why I connected with it is it's very similar to me. So building community really does. It's a good business plan, but it's just something that we believe in. And so, we want a place. I think community needs a place to gather. And like Grant mentioned, that third spot where you have your family life, where that's kind of your first spot, you have your work, but then there's less and less third places where people gather, to where they can share life, they can share ideas, they can get to know each other. We're just more and more isolated as a society, and we believe that the world needs community. And so more than a business plan, we just want people hanging out because we think it's good for people, and it's good for our town, and it's good for everything else. And it is nice. The more they hang out, the more they drink, and that keeps the doors open and
well,
all
if you
that.
think about it, a lot of people go away. I was the same way. I grew up here, couldn't wait to get out of here, had to leave, go do something. And then you want to come back because you realize, hey, that was a pretty good place that I grew up, and that's where I want to raise my family. When people go to big cities, what they miss is there's no connection.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing their own thing. They're just going to work. They're going home. They're going to the store. They're going back. They're going to dinner with their group. But there's no, you walk down the street, nobody says hi to each other. And one of the cool things about a small town is people do say hi to one another. They generally, they might stop and help you if you're in need, which you don't get when you go to a big community. How do you see, or do you see, the culture and the community that you're trying to create inside Founding Fathers growing out into the community? Is that a part of it as well? We want this community to stay friendly. Our business model is friendly, right? It's a place to just go connect with people and hang out and have a good time and be friendly. Do you see that going outside your 4 walls?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things Jesse and I have been very intentional on over the last 8 years of moving back here, and then as we partnered over the last 4, we both have sat or made it intentional to sit on plenty of boards and different committees here within the community. And so that kind of has rippled through several of our key leaders within our organization, to where they now sit on different boards and look at business a lot more and their involvement with Founding Fathers with a lot more of a civic engagement in mind of how are they giving back, and not just a mindset of what's in it for me, but really there's purpose and intention with being involved and actually stepping into responsibilities instead of thinking that someone owes you something or you have a right to something. which to your point earlier, I think what's lacking in a lot of bigger cities is a citizen mindset. So we kind of, in a bigger city, people tend to gravitate more towards, I think for a lesser word, a metropolitan mindset. So they're so used to just consuming constantly and always just taking and taking. And you come to a smaller community and it really affords people the opportunity to get involved and engage with fellow citizens, or really be connected with a myriad of different people, all within about 1 or 2 degrees of separation. And if they take ownership of themselves and want to be responsible, they can then in turn actually be a responsible citizen and give back and be a productive member of society, which is a lot harder to do on a macro scale of LA or Phoenix or something like that.
So how do you, either one of you, how do you do your small part in a community to keep that culture that we have in our community and not just be a consumer, but give back to the community? Like you said, be on boards. We got a lot of people moving here, and that's good and bad. I mean, mostly I think it's good. It's a great place to live. We want to share it with people. It seems to be the new people that arrive want to change it the most. The wall goes up, the doors get locked, that kind of attitude. But how do you do your small part in preventing that from happening and saying, hey, we can be welcoming? That's what makes us great, is the fact that there's more people here. We have more ideas, more diversity, more people to engage with.
Yeah. Like Grant said, we do try to be intentional with it. And so, I mean, with our 3 C's, the community is the center of it that we see. And so we create community by connecting and caring for people and ultimately drawing people into community. And we kind of even defined for our staff 3 levels of that. And the first one is like, it's sharing space. And so we just want people to share space. Because we do, like, we live in a very, very isolating world, and even more isolating. And if you get people sitting next to each other and actually looking to each other's face, all of a sudden you find out, wow, we agree on a lot more. It's a lot easier to like hate people or to be against ideas behind a computer screen or when you don't know the other. And so having a space that brings people together, which we do, like we work across the board from our music to the events that we do, like we seek of like, how does this play to kids? How does this play to families? How does this play to the working? How does this play to the retired? And really trying to, and we love the fact that we can walk in there and we see, I mean, we have a chess group and we see an 80-year-old playing against a 12-year-old. And it's like, where else in life are these 2 people going to be sitting and engaging and sharing ideas and seeing life from each other's point of views? And so just bringing people together, we think does make a difference. It plays in society that's so isolated. And so that's a small way that we give back. Our second level is shared experiences. So for a shared space, shared experiences of like, if you can get people to actually experience something together, now they have commonality and they're brought together in that. And then our ultimate one is shared mission. And for us, it is just like, hey, join us in this mission of making Prescott and Prescott Valley, this community, a better place. And so we have that built into our model, and then we tell our staff that. We empower them. We give our welcome talk to our staff and say, hey, we're those millennials that we thought we could change the world, even though we don't claim to be millennials, but we are. We both just got it by a year or 2 and we're like, dang it, okay, I guess we're millennials. But we all thought we were like special snowflakes and we could change the world. And we went out and we got punched in the face by the world, ended up back in our hometown in our parents' basements. But
we're both still there, by the way.
But we tell our staff that and they say, but we don't believe necessarily we can change the world anymore. Like, that's probably not realistic. The world's a big place, but we can change our world. And we tell our staff like that this business is our effort to do that. And this little town's our world. And so we give them permission and we talk through our 3 C's in community and say, this is what we're trying to do here. And so we invite them into that process with us at all levels, from just creating that environment there and empowering and telling the staff, this is what we want. Like, at the end of the day, that's the experience that we're bringing more than beer or haircuts or anything else. To, like Grant said, like we pave ways and we encourage and we allow training and involvement in the community from our leadership and just really always looking for new ways to engage that. So I don't know, it's pretty deep into who we are and why we've started the business and what we try to work into it. That, we need to keep the doors open, but at the end of the day, hopefully what we're doing, even just by having the space, but then in the shared experiences and then the shared mission. And we do that in a lot of ways. I mean, we built into our business model from the beginning, like donations, charity, 10%. We've already started a nonprofit where we're starting to tap that more and more to give back. Like our membership, we do quarterly events. Every quarterly event we do is all around a local charity and giving back to there, and then opening up the doors to our staff and just always looking for different ways of, hey, there's on that kind of level, just the money side and the engagement side. But we also just as strongly, if not more, believe that who we are as a business and the community that we're creating is probably more important than the money or the public things we can do, just because we believe that's what people need. They need this. They need face to face. They need to get to know each other.
We're certainly at a place in our world and our time in history that we need more of that. We need more people just being genuine and trying to connect with one another. And I like what you said. It just the shared experience, shared place, and then shared mission. Think about what a community would be like if the citizens all gathered around that kind of a orientation. Like, we're all here. It's a beautiful place. Let's all acknowledge that, and not try to tear it apart. I see so much. It's so much in the media today is tearing things down, and that's what sells. I know they like to see the blood and gore, and they want to see somebody suffering. But what I think is really missing is when we celebrate somebody who's doing something really good, celebrate the 12-year-old playing chess, maybe even winning, celebrate the T-ball people that are out there living life and living a good life. And that's what it's all about. What I hear you guys saying is we have our definition of living a good life, and it doesn't have to be anybody else's definition, but you guys are living it. And that's what's so cool, is that you have your mission, and at the end, you're probably going to be a lot happier than others because it's your definition, you're living it.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been very, just at the forefront of our mind is this mission and what we're trying to accomplish with Founding Fathers, and then how that plays in the rest of the community, understanding that responsibility is largely on us because we created the brand and the overall business. And so when we have our team that joins us right now, I think we have 65 employees or 67. So we employ a good amount of individuals, and our retention rate's pretty high. So probably since or last 2 years, I would say it's somewhere around 80% in a hospitality industry, which is pretty phenomenal for this area. But by attaching, key values and kind of like a mission statement on what we're doing and how we're doing it, it gets people to transcend just the day-to-day operations of, hey, I'm just working for a paycheck. But really, how are you, incorporating what you're doing, and how are you paying it forward and actually being a part of other people's stories within the community? And so a lot of people tend to find some level of purpose and meaning in what they're doing there. And then when their time comes to move on or go to another opportunity, we also see it as a part of what we've built is stewardship of them and what they're doing. But then when they need to leave, the responsibility to help them land on their feet in a good place when they do go, because as soon as they leave, somebody else is going to fill that position. We don't need to safe harbor or kind of guard their time or the longevity with us, thinking that if they leave, we're done. At the end of the day, neither Jesse or myself are going to make a decision that's going to sink that place in one day. It runs pretty fluidly and flawlessly without us being there in the context of day-to-day operations. We have an awesome staff. We empower them and give them the freedom and latitude to just make their own decisions, the autonomy to succeed and fail, which is huge in today's world because everybody is so, centered around, or the fear that creeps in is like, hey, you can't fail. But that's the only way most of us learn. It's the best way to learn. So really looking for those opportunities to set them up in our house, in the building. But then when they leave, it's like, who else can you go work with, or how do you do something on your own? But being a kind of a landing point to where they feel like they're appreciated, accepted, and then obviously when they leave, they're leaving on good terms. So
one of the things we try to instill in our organization is celebrate people when they leave. Yeah. We actually look at it as, you graduated. Yeah. You've gone as far as you can go with us, and you've outgrown us, and you need to go somewhere else and pursue their dreams and their ambitions. And I think it's just such a change of mind that so many people don't have. It's just like, well, we're going to invest all this time, money, and energy in training these people and bringing them on board. Then they're going to leave. It's like, well, yep, that's what it's all about, right? Our parents raised us for a long time, and then their goal was we'd leave the house someday.
Yeah.
And the same can be true for a company.
Yeah.
It's like you're at a certain stage in your life. It's like, hey, I can go get this job and I can grow, and then I can go get a different job with those skills that I learned. And I think that's what's really cool about what you're doing is it's missing, I think, in a lot of places because people are just in the rat race.
Well,
and when you can turn it and say, we're going to celebrate you leaving because you've outgrown us. And that's a really cool thing that you guys are a part of somebody's life that way.
Yeah. Because we talk about that. I mean, you talked about that small town. How do we serve? How do we give back? How do we keep that outward focus? And Grant had talked about like citizenship versus metropolitan view, and kind of that you have in the big city where it's just like, hey, everybody have for themselves the rat race. One of the things we talk about that we see more here in Prescott is not necessarily that metropolitan view, but like a tourist view, because we're a tourist town, and then a lot of people come retire here, and so it's that mindset of like, hey, I've paid my dues or I've paid to be here, and so the town's serving me, versus the citizenship view of us serving the town. And so we kind of push that into our vocabulary with our staff and our leadership of like, hey, we're trying to develop ourselves into citizenship where we serve the town, the town's not serving us. And we're kind of along those lines that we believe it's awesome. Then if we've created citizens, and then like we've helped start 3 other barbershops in town, and other people who are like, hey, I want to go into bartending. It's like, awesome. Like, help us. We'll help you do that, because we believe if there's more citizens out there who have those values and are serving others, like that's a good thing. Like we don't, there's plenty of room at the table for everybody. And so we do, like when we've helped start those barbershops, we send out letters to all their clients, encouraging them of like, hey, so-and-so starting a new barbershop, please go with them and like help them succeed. And just because we do believe and we know that like, hey, that's more citizens in this town, loving this town, serving this town, making the impact, hopefully trading that into their staff. And like that kind of infection and virus grows in a good way rather than the bad way that a lot of times we see. And so yeah, we kind of just push into that of like, hey, how are we, it's that tourist mindset, the trap where it's, hey, everybody here to serve me, versus like, no, hey, we're here to serve this town. And ask the self, in 50 years, is this town going to be a better place because we were here, or in the decisions that we made and the legacy that we left? And so we try to keep that on our radar a lot.
Boy, there's a lot of leaders that could learn a lot from that statement right there. How to leave the town a better place. I want to touch base. You said you guys had like 65 employees.
Yeah.
Are they all from Prescott, or from like, what's the demographic of your
we have
base?
we usually have a rolling number that are from Embry-Riddle. There's several locals, Prescott Valley, pick up a few from the Valley here and there. And we've made it a point to constantly put ourselves into the, I guess the cycle weekly almost of interviewing. So we're always interviewing regardless if we have a position or not. One, because you never know who else could be out there that is just an awesome rock star individual. But 2, it keeps us sharp and honing really who are we trying to look for? Who are the best people that fit our culture that we're trying to build? And then how can they add value to the business themselves and the community at large? And so, I mean, it's gone a long way. So anytime we lose people, there's just a myriad of people right behind them that come in and just do a better job. So I would say in 8 years, I've never had a concern about losing anybody, because as soon as we lose one person, it's like 2 more people come in who are just awesome and take us to another level. So
very cool.
And it is a good mix. I mean, it's hard. Most definitely. We're in the service industry, and the place is only getting more expensive to live, and it has our whole life. It's only gotten more and more expensive. And so we've had to be creative on that side. We've pulled in a lot of barbers from out of town just because there's no barbering schools in Northern Arizona. So much so that we might end up opening our own someday, just because if we keep on growing this thing, we're going to need more barbers, and it's expensive to pull people from out of state. But we've had to, like our manager right now, we pulled him from California, but we had to guarantee his pay at a certain level for almost a year. And we've gotten creative in other ways. So we have a partnership with a local apartment complex. They call it the Founding Fathers Barracks now, because so many of our staff live there. But we do some guarantees with them as far as rents being paid and deposits and things like that. And then we do really work hard to pay a living wage, which is really difficult. And it hurts our bottom line. But to know that like, hey, if we're asking people to live kind of a value-based business, we have to put that at the forefront of what we do. And so we do our best to pay really well. But in that we can go after a lot more kind of career-minded people, which is hard in the coffee industry, in the bar industry, in the physical fitness type thing.
You're definitely breaking trends there with what people might think of the hospitality industry.
Yeah. And so we push it, but it's hard. It's a good mix. Even within our staff, we have a really, really good age range, but we always at least are pushing for, even if they're young kids, that we know this is just a transition job for them. That it's like, hey, but while you're here, we want to take care of you, but we also expect you to take care of us and treat this seriously. And so
you're kind of touching on the edges of it. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face with this whole this enterprise that you have between the barbershop, the coffee shop, the tap room?
I think the biggest, I think right now we have a pretty good pulse on it, but originally starting off, the right person for the right seat or the right job. So there's a myriad of different people that kind of come and go in and out of any organization to where you think, hey, this person's awesome, so therefore I'm going to put them over here. But we've made it a point to do a lot of personality placement tests, finding out people's strengths and weaknesses, really getting into the psychology of the individual who comes to work with us and then where they actually feel best suited, and not just, hey, I think I'm really good over here, but it's like, well, actually based off of everything you've tested at, you're actually better over here, and we'll train you for that position. So I think over the course of the last 2 years, we've got it pretty narrowed down to where, and a lot more simplified, especially at the leadership level, the upper leadership level. We used to be pretty heavy on leadership, and then we've kind of dwindled that down to just some very key people in certain positions. And it really has afforded Jess and I the opportunity to step back and try to tackle other projects and different positions of growth that we're focusing on. And the nice thing is that we have a very competent team that can just run everything without us being there in the day-to-day. So, which is great, because that means, ideally they're getting paid more, they're getting more responsibility. They take ownership of their position in Founding Fathers with what they're doing, and it's not like they feel they're being micromanaged or, it's I would assume it's very freeing, which I think that's definitely the case, because a myriad of those top people are still here, and people continually want to come work for us, which is great. So, and like I said, we don't have to advertise for it. They find us, and we just keep tapping in new people here and there. So,
anything to add to challenges?
It's not a typical model. I mean, Grant mentioned our 2-year build out. A good 18 months of that was finding investors. Because like you said, I mean, you start talking through the list of like, yeah, hey, we're a barbershop, a bar, a coffee shop, a gym, jiu-jitsu. Like, and it's funny. And getting taken seriously, going and putting that pitch deck in front of investors. And then on top of that, like we're really strong all along of like, yes, these are cool, fun ideas and we think it can make some money, but that's also not our priority. And so we built things like the charity and the community service and things like that into our business plan. And so it's not a typical business plan at all. And we ended up with 2 really incredible investors, and they've been awesome for us because they believe in the same kind of like important things that we believe about. But it hasn't been by far anywhere close to their best investment. And as we talk about growing and all of that, just figuring out exactly how to do that, because we believe in it, we love it, and people are reaching out to us of like, hey, we'd love to expand this thing, but it's not your typical business plan. And so it's never going to make us super rich or investors super rich. And so that's that challenge of, you always kind of have the investment corporate world, like they want their returns, they need their returns.
Or 20x.
And for us to like, how do we balance that with the culture that we know we want to build and pressing down the profit margins so that we can give more back. And so they're just like that. I mean, it's, so you're kind of like stuck in that, because you never also, like the employees, I don't know, just like you never feel like you're doing enough for them or for the community, but and then you also feel like you know what the expected returns are, and you're never doing enough there. So it's this weird tension of, okay, how do we live in this business entrepreneurial world, but doing it in the best way that we know how to, and pitch people on like, hey, this is good, and you should still give us more money because we want to do this even more places.
Well, we talk about in our organization, it's kind of like operating for a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear you guys doing. There's a purpose. We got to make money, because if you don't make money, you can't pay the bills, you can't pay your staff, you can't pay yourself. And let's face it, we all have to make some money to be able to live here. But there can be a higher cause that you're operating for. And that's what I hear you guys speaking to, is there's a higher purpose out there that we're blending into this entrepreneurial business, and trying to get investors and people to engage in that can be challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Balance and purpose and intentions. So, I mean, the other thing too is as a business model itself, and especially as we continue to grow, I would say in the hospitality space that we're playing in right now, it's definitely a what's the right word? It's kind of breaking the barrier, or it's a model that hasn't really been done in a myriad of different places. And so, as we've refined it, and we're getting close to finishing all the legal paperwork when it comes to franchising and trademarking and everything like that. But the model is proven now at this point at 2 years in, and it was a struggle definitely with COVID. I would say that was the biggest hiccup, but now it's proven. And as we continue to grow, it's going to be fun to go in and try to replicate these in other communities. So our goal, definitely in the next year or two, is to put one of these out here in Prescott Valley, because I think as a community, Prescott Valley is a newer community, but you guys need something out here that really solidifies a place that people feel like, hey, I can go and there's something for me at a myriad of different levels, whether I'm 18 or 12 or 60 or 80. I can find something for me, and also something that I can go in the morning or evening or afternoon, and I can get work done, or I can go there to play, or I can have a beer or whatever it might be. But the focus really is like, once again, how are you going into a community like Prescott Valley, and then bringing something that's unique, that brings people together, that's profitable, that obviously is a viable business, but really anchors around those core tenets that we were talking about with community connection and care. So, and we're right there. So it's good. So,
well, let's talk about the future a little bit. Is there something that's on the horizon that you guys are looking at that you can share today? Like, where is Founding Fathers 3 years, 5 years from now?
3 years, I definitely want to be out here in Prescott Valley. So, and I think ideally, as we make Prescott Valley like the second location, I think that really becomes the flagship model to the entire concept. So moving forward, the entire concept would be close to, currently we're about 12,000 square feet. But I think moving forward, it can be closer to like 30 to 45,000 square feet. And so there's a myriad of different concepts we're working on, and then to add to the overall brand, but then also just maximizing the internal concepts that we have currently, and then just adding just more added value to individuals that come in to want to be a part of what we're doing. So,
yeah, we're kind of working two paths, and one is the Prescott path, or like this community, the Quad City area, Cinco City or whatever we are now.
Is it Cinco?
I think so.
Man, that's the first time I've heard that. It's great.
But because both of us, I mean, we love this community. This is where we want to stay. We want our kids to grow up here. And so we're kind of just building and adding on to that community connection care. So we just started our umbrella corporation, which is C3, which is around those three C's. And we're looking at, getting in the food, we're running down that. We have procured a couple buildings around Founding Fathers in Prescott where we're going to be starting some new concepts, and just kind of building on to that brand of just like, hey, we have a gathering point, we have this place, so this is where we're going to grow up. So how do we keep on just offering this more and having fun with it and doubling down on that? And so that's kind of one path. The other path is that we're kind of solidifying what is the core of just that building, that thing. Because from day one, we've had a lot of people reaching out interested about us going to their communities and either franchising or affiliate owned. And we're still kind of asking all those questions, but we know it's something that people are really, and that we are interested in exporting to other places. And so that will kind of be, like Grant was talking, like we're hopefully to figure that out the next year or so, and then do that test run here in Prescott Valley where it's like, okay, that's that flagship. Here's the concept that we can just export and have a really good team that helps us do that, but allows us to stay in Prescott and just kind of hopefully live out the concepts and the community that we want here, and let this kind of area be the model that we then can bring people back to and say, hey, here's what we're trying to create in this, and have this as the training grounds, the proving grounds, and all of that. So most definitely for us individually, we really want a local focus. Like we want to, with our membership, we're wanting to grow that and expand that and have that touch more places and have more cool things where we just bring leaders and business leaders and families and people together, and to do that just in more and different ways in this area. And then to really define a core concept that we can go offer other communities.
Very cool. I mean, so often when you hear about franchises, it's all about the footprint, the machinery, how it all fits together. And what I hear for you guys in creating a franchise, there's that part too, but like it's the person. Like you got to have like like how do you recruit the right franchisees that can carry the mission that you guys have started forward into their community? Like it's not just we'll give you the footprint, we'll give you the concepts, but it's really what you guys have is this glue that's the two personalities that you are, that community culture and care that you're pushing out into their community that draws everybody back in.
Yeah,
Cool.
If we do franchise, it's going to be a lot closer to the Chick-fil-A model where we're really, really selective. And we're not 100% landed on that. We might just do affiliate owned where we can kind of somewhat be in control, and because that's we've come back a lot to, like, yeah, we could give people the blueprints all day long, but what we believe makes us special is that community connection care. And so to do that in-house where we can raise up those people or partner with those people and kind of intentionally do it, rather than just because we don't want to set people up for failure or communities up for failure just by saying like, hey, give us your money. Sure. Here's the blueprints. Have fun. That's not what we are or what we want to happen. So
very cool. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming out today. And what I love about these sessions is, part of it's living a good life, but it's also the design of a community. And what I hope people take away from this is, who would have thought of this? I mean, this is what's so cool when you have such a diverse population out there. Two guys come together, they put this mixture together. It is so key to the design of a community that we have this experience. And there's no one person that can come up with all these ideas and make them work. And you guys are living and breathing this. And I've seen you over the years tweak it a little bit, like, oh, that worked. Oh, we need a little more room over here. And so that's all part of the design. And so thank you for being here today, but thank you for your contribution to the community and what you bring, because you do truly bring a unique experience that like none other. And I think the community of Prescott and Prescott Valley and our whole region is grateful for it. So thank you both. Appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your business, and look forward to an update someday.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us on, Brad. Appreciate it. And all the support over the years.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, this is Brad Fain on Living a Good Life. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.